Hi, I'm Amy Reddington. I'm the event director for Campus Safety, and I am joined today by Chief John Thomas with USC Public Safety. Welcome, Chief. Thanks for joining us today.
Well, thank you for having me. Thank you.
Great. Nice to see you today. As we head into the holidays, I thought it would be good to talk a little bit about winter break and safety during that time.
Okay.
Could you start off by telling us a little bit about USC and what occurs during winter break? How many people are gone? How many people are still on campus? A little bit about that.
Okay. Yeah, USC, as you know, or you may not know, we've got about 35,000 students, primarily here on the main campus. And over the winter break, just like most major Division I universities, um, things somewhat slow down because of finals, but also it becomes a time where we in public safety and campus policing have to be extra vigilant because the students become particularly vulnerable because there's more opportunities, and just in general in law enforcement specifically, the holidays is a time also where crime tends to go up. There's a lot of property. People are not really paying a lot of attention to what's going on around them. There's a lot of valuables, and the same is, somewhat true in a college campus environment, because you still have the typical things that thieves are after: cell phones, laptops, and those kinds of things. But you also have students preparing to leave to go back home. You have students that are going to be driving, across state, going back home. So they have all their valuables or have things piled into their cars, and they're waiting for finals to be over. And then, things are loaded up in their car probably days in advance. So there's a lot of opportunities for crimes to occur, a lot of property. And also when you combine that with the fact that students are primarily focusing right around this time, particularly here because we're on the semester system, as is most universities, they're focusing on finals. So we have all that going on, and it makes a perfect storm for if a campus department isn't vigilant, for students to be particularly vulnerable at a time like this.
Great. And so how do you communicate safety and situational awareness to those that are still on campus?
We're constantly pushing out information relative to through the traditional means, the opportunities that we get for orientations and meetings, advisories, crime prevention advisories, social media. We have an Instagram account, Facebook, Twitter, that we utilize all those means of social media to also push out information relative to safety, and also what some of the resources that the university makes available for our students. We have a service here for USC students where late at night they can utilize Lyft, and the university pays for it, so that they're not walking around as much in the community, going back and forth between the residences and the libraries. That's one resource. Campus Cruiser. And then also when they go away, those that leave their vehicles here, we have a service where they can park in one specific lot, and we will provide extra security for their vehicles to prevent their vehicles from being broken into. Just pushing out the information through the traditional means, social media, in our public contacts with students, but also reminding them of the resources that are available for them, that the university provides to keep them safe and keep their property safe as well.
Great, that's really good stuff. What about community outreach? Do you do any additional outreach during this time, or is this stuff that you're just doing on an ongoing basis anyways?
We do have a community relations office, and that's primarily all they do, and look for the opportunities not only to build new relationships, but strengthen existing relationships with student groups and community groups, And of course, that's focused around, crime prevention and safety. Also the other thing, I should have mentioned this in the first question. Uh, like many major universities with large international student populations, we do know that our international students tend to stay around the university. They don't go uh, back to their home countries, most of them for the holidays. So, we still have to maintain a level of safety for them and push out information because oftentimes they're still utilizing the library. They're still coming back and forth on campus late at night. So that's an added component to uh, keeping that segment of the university population safe.
What about your staff? Do you have limited staff over the holidays as well?
No, we keep the same level of staffing. Those officers that were scheduled for vacations, they take theirs, but we maintain the same level of staffing as if the students were here. But what we do is we go into a whole different, very proactive strategy when it comes to patrolling the campus, ensuring that buildings are locked, focusing a lot on the campus buildings, focusing on the places out in the community where students live. One of the things we're challenged with here in the city of Los Angeles is a huge increase in the homeless population, and that transient population, there tends to be, a lot of criminal opportunists that if we're not vigilant and paying attention and monitoring, places where students live, places where students' vehicles are parked, they can be very much susceptible to victims' property crimes. So we go into a whole different mindset approach when it comes to how we patrol during the breaks, because there's so many places that were once inhabited, that are secured or sometimes halfway secured or not secured at all, that provide opportunities for break-ins. So we have a strategy for the holidays where one, we don't have the same volume of radio calls, but we expect, and the strategy dictate, the officers are more proactive in checking buildings, checking dorms, checking vehicles, monitoring the activities of some of the known repeat offenders in the neighborhood. So we go into a whole specific strategy geared toward crime prevention in the environment where majority of our students are no longer around.
So, Chief, tell me what you would tell other campuses, regardless of their size, how they can ensure that their students and faculty pay attention to safety during this time.
Well, I think, the main thing is making sure, and it's something that has to be worked on, not just during the holidays and break in periods like this. Those lines of communication are open, because officers are going to be the ones that have to deal with whatever the issues are that occur while the students are gone, and they're primarily responsible. So those relationships and getting information, what are the pressure points that students, faculty, and staff are feeling at a time like that, getting that information in advance and being aware of it, and being aware of what does a winter break, what does final period, and all of those things, what do those things look like for that respective campus? Do the international students, where do they live? Where do they stay? Do the fraternities and sororities leave and their places where they live are vulnerable because they're no longer there? There's a lot of things that happen, in a university setting over the course of, a holiday break when a good percentage of the campus is pretty much abandoned. I think being aware of what, your university or your college, what happens, and being responsive to what are the vulnerabilities, and putting together strategies based upon those vulnerabilities, and making sure that the officers are aware. But I do think that communication, and then also just being aware that aware and having the officers being of the presence of mind that this is a particularly vulnerable time of the year for college campuses, and that there's certain things that they have to be a lot more vigilant about than in the normal course of when the university is in session. I think those two things, communication, and then being aware of what happens in your respective college and university during a time like this, and putting together strategies that are effective in crime prevention.
So you've spoken about what your department does. What about administration and student affairs departments? How do they communicate safety?
Well, I think primarily that's where the relationships are important. I think we should be in we ideally you should be in lockstep. Student affairs and the administration should be pushing out the same message when it comes to crime prevention and safety during a time like this. I think student affairs should be in lockstep with public safety and campus policing, and the university administration should be also. But also, I think they have different roles. One, making sure that students are aware of what the resources that are available that the university provides at a time like this. But I think primarily, reiterating, situational awareness, not leaving property unattended, locking your property, utilizing, if there's such a device as Live Safe and those type of notification devices where students can report things to public safety. I think it's a holistic approach, but all designed toward reiterating the common safety message, and those are pretty much standard. Situational awareness, protecting your property, not leaving your property unattended, those kinds of things. I think it's one message, but it has to be coming and reinforced from everyone involved in the campus community. And that includes administration and also student affairs and others.
And what about students that live off campus? Is there anything different that has to be done in that regard?
I think yes, there is. I think for students that live in off-campus housing, apartments, I think the same bears truth. I think they still have to be mindful, and they have to do specific things to ensure, that if they are leaving for the break, that when they come back, that their property is secure. Having conversations with their landlords, making sure, that, Department of Public Safety or law enforcement is aware that no one is going to be in the place, making sure that mail gets picked up or mail gets stopped, those kinds of things that traditionally you would do if you weren't living in university housing, to ensure that you're not vulnerable to break in. I know for City of LA and most of the cities in Southern California, you can make a request to your police department to check on your residents while you're away. And that goes a long way toward ensuring that, if there is something that looks out of sort, someone can follow up on it, because people are aware, or the right people are aware that you're not in your apartment or in your house. So I think there's things that, if you were not in a university environment or a student, just as you would if you were going on vacation, you'd let your neighbor know that you're going to be away. You make arrangements for your newspaper to be stopped or picked up, and those kinds of things. I think those are the same type of things that our students off that living in non-U.S. university-owned housing, they should put those things in place as well.
What about areas of the campus? Are there certain areas that are blocked off or closed during the break?
For USC, there's always construction. A lot of construction goes on during the break. So there are places where, there's construction that goes on, specific construction that goes on during the break. So, yeah, there are places that are closed. The libraries go into modified hours, so those are some of the places that there are adjustments made. But as far as closed off, the university, for the most part, with the exception of construction sites, pretty much is an open campus. I think you may be aware of it, and maybe the viewers may not be, but USC is a closed campus between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. In the morning. So the only ones that are permitted to come on the campus are those that have student ID or guests of students and faculty and staff. So it becomes pretty secure, and we still do those things. We do those things 365 days a year. So those things are in place. So the university, USC itself, is a closed campus between the hours of 9 p.m. and 6 a.m. And that continues through the holiday period as well.
And what about on the other side? Are there any large-scale activities or events that will be happening over this period on campus?
On campus, I don't think so. I think there may be a few athletic events, but not many. And again, being where we're at in urban Los Angeles, we're adjacent to the Coliseum. There may be events at the Coliseum. The LA Soccer Club stadium is right next door. We have a host of a bunch of museums directly across the street. So there's always activity around this area in general. We're about a mile away from LA Live. So there's always, even if students aren't here, there's still a lot going on in this environment. With the opening of the new University Village, there's eateries that are going to continue to do business. So there's still a lot of activity in the general area. It's just not classes, and I don't think that there's, for this holiday period, there's a lot of or any major events occurring over the holidays.
Great. Well, that's about it. I don't know if there's anything else that you'd like to add on this topic.
I think that, because universities and colleges are always soft targets, it doesn't matter whether it's the holiday period or not. I think, officers, that have the responsibility of keeping colleges and universities safe. We also need to, I guess, do our part when it comes to, early detection of issues that could pose a problem in the future. There's a lot of issues on our universities and college campuses having to do with mental illness, of course, active shooter. These are times, I think, over the course of the holidays, in addition to being extremely vigilant, it's a time to get some training in. I know we will be doing an active shooter exercise over the holiday break. A lot of training that our officers oftentimes are too busy over the course of the regular academic school year to attend, getting some of that training in. So I think, our preparedness and our readiness, we can reinforce that during these somewhat lulls in student activity on our university campuses. So I would encourage other colleges and universities. Now is the time to reinforce training, and just overall preparedness, because it is getting much more challenging to provide the safety and security on our college campuses. So that would be my advice and tip for other colleges and university departments. And the other thing is just happy holidays.
Thank you. That was actually a great addition to this interview. Thank you. Again, I'm here with Chief John Thomas with USC Public Safety. Thank you, John, for joining us today, and I wish you and your family and your team a great holiday.
Same, and thank you Campus Safety. You guys are outstanding, supporters of our mission to keep America's universities and colleges safe. We can always count on you for helping us to get the message out. And again, happy holidays and to you and your family as well.